Well, hello and welcome to another edition of the E-commerce Evolution podcast. I'm your host, Brett Curry, CEO of OMG Commerce. And today on the show, we have a first that I'm really excited about. And also, I don't know how this is going to go, right? This is going to be really interesting. I think it's all going to be smooth, but there could be some fireworks here because we have a husband and wife team on the podcast today. And so we're going to get to hear just a phenomenal success story. This is a rock star e-commerce couple working side by side, building an amazing business. We first connected in Austin, Texas at a War Room event. We immediately kind of struck up a friendship, had a great chat. And so I'm delighted to welcome to the show Josh and Becca Hadley of Hadley Designs. Josh is CEO. Becca is CCO, Chief Creative Officer. And just so excited, guys. So excited you could be here. Congrats on your success. Congrats on being a power couple in the e-commerce space. And thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having us here, Brett. We're longtime listener, first time caller.
Hey, I love to hear that. That's awesome. So tell me, when did you realize that, like, hey, we could work together in our business? Because I know a lot of couples that love each other, they're committed, so awesome, but like they would never work with each other. So when did you guys first realize that, hey, this could work?
I don't know if there was ever like a reality point where it was like, oh, this could actually work. I think that we just kind of got started, and we'll tell our story a little bit more, but we just kind of got started. And as we got into it, we both kind of have our own areas of specialty. And so she doesn't need to touch my work and I don't touch her work. And that's the way it works really well. But it's been really fun to work as a couple. And again, if you would have asked me before we started Hadley Designs, would you like to work with your spouse? I probably would say, no, because that could, you hear all the horror stories.
Sure.
But for us,
The relationship is too valuable, right, to like risk it, on a failed, business endeavor.
Yeah, we actually don't really know it much any other way though, because we got started probably a year and a half, 2 years into our marriage. So honestly, it's been more working together than not. So for us, it's kind of the only thing we've known.
It's true.
That's amazing. So I want to hear the story. I want to hear the backstory because I think this could be fascinating. But I'm just curious, do you have any code words? Like any code words for, hey, let's stop talking about this, or hey, you're not talking to me like you should. We're a couple here. Anything like that would be helpful for other couples out there.
I'm probably the more high strung one that's like, okay, we have a date night every week, and we make sure that at least the majority of that date is spent talking about life and other things. So we're very open about it, and we kind of have like rules, if you call it that. So just kind of having some guidelines to give it a break. I don't think Josh needs a break ever, but I need to talk about other things sometimes.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. So we have talked about, first, kudos to you guys for doing the once a week date night. My wife and I have talked about that a lot. As people that listen to the podcast know, we have 8 children. It's not so easy to do date nights. So we're like a once a month probably date night, but we'll get better at some point. So that is awesome, guys. Excited to dive into the story. And so let's just start at the beginning. Like, how did this start? And first of all, and this is not like a relationship show per se, but like any interesting story on how you guys met?
Well, we met on the corner of the street.
That's right. Picked her up off the corner of the street. We'll just leave it at that. Let your imaginations run wild.
You guys really did meet on the street.
We did meet on the street. Go ahead and tell the quick version of this story.
Yes. So if you know Josh, it's nothing surprising. He's very friendly, open, confident. We were actually just walking to campus of the college at the same time, crossing the road at the same time, and Josh just struck up conversation. I was confused and tired because it was early in the morning and cold in the winter.
So Josh, are you a morning person? Were you like all excited and loving life and stuff?
Funny, I'm not really a morning person, but when I see a beautiful girl, sure.
So he didn't even get my number though. He just invited me to his business club, which also fits his personality. Just started talking.
Yeah, smooth, man. It's subtle. Like, hey, come to the business club. So you're not like really sticking your neck out there. Like, hey, I'm totally into you. But it's like, hey, you want to do business, like learn business. And then, yeah, I'm impressed, Josh, that's a good move.
Yeah.
I guess it's kind of an ironic start given where we are now.
It is
But
true.
Exactly. It was like it was destined to, this was the way it was supposed to be. You guys met at a business club and run a business together. And by the way, before I forget, this is the sign that you have achieved success in your business. And also, this is a quick plug if anybody's watching the video, because I know most people listen, but hey, check this out on YouTube or on Facebook if all you do is listen. You guys have some special chairs like there. Becca, could you lean to the side and tell me about the chair? There you go. There you go. Look at that. Those are fancy white chairs with a black H on the back. It's super cool. I'm jealous. I just got a normal chair here. So what's the story behind the chair?
We finally upgraded and got a grown-up chair.
Well, we had our old,
chairs.
our old college chairs. And then they were literally breaking. My back was hurting. Basically, I got old, Brett. So thanks for calling it out. I lost my hair and my back started to hurt. And so we got orthopedic.
Yeah, they're like chairs.
Orthopedic chair. There you go.
Yeah. And I love monogram, so we added the H because
they are very soft.
Business name, our name, it's great.
Yeah. Now, can you recommend the specific brand? I know this is not.
Yeah, it was Relax the Back.
Relax the Back. Okay, I will definitely check it out. I like it.
They're really nice, really good chairs.
Awesome. So business club, going back to business club, that's like going way back to the beginning. But how did this business start?
So so that was in college, and so Becca, we'll go quick story here. I was doing my MBA this is at the University of Utah. I was finishing up my MBA and she was finishing up her undergrad in early childhood education. And we got married.
We had 1 year left.
We had 1 year left when we had got married. So we got married, finished up college. And at that point, I had got a job with American Airlines in their MBA leadership development program. So that brought us down to Dallas, Texas. And at that point, Becca, kind of the conversation was like, well, I know what I'm going to be doing during the day. What are you going to be doing during the day? And why don't you tell the story of how you kind of had always had an interest in graphic design? That's kind of when you started actually exploring it.
Yeah. So in college, I just had a lot of people who told me that an art degree would be a waste of time and money and that it would be a waste of
It's a good path to become a barista or something like that, if you really love coffee.
Yeah, I'd never get a job. It would waste my scholarship, all those things.
And nothing wrong with being a barista, by the way. Quick shout out to all my barista friends. I love you. And you know that I support you. But anyway, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So I kind of tried to find a job that still, or a career, a degree that would allow me to still be creative, which I love. I've been creative since birth. I love to design and do art and all these things. And so I decided to try and study early education because it allowed me to, create lesson plans, and I'm social and friendly. So I got to be around people. So I thought it would be a good path possibly if I wasn't going to do an art degree, even though I knew that's what I really wanted to do. So when we came out to Dallas, I started looking around to work at like preschools and stuff. And I just don't love other people's kids that much.
My wife has said the same exact thing. Yeah,
it wasn't a passion, like I loved creating the lessons, and that was kind of about it. I didn't really want to participate. So I just knew it just wasn't right. It was something where I would watch the clock and wait for the time to be over, it just wasn't the right fit. So when we moved out here, we were fortunate enough that I didn't have to get a job right away. And so I started teaching myself graphic design. I watched hours and hours of YouTube videos and online courses. And I'm totally self-taught in graphic design and Photoshop. And
That's
so
amazing.
I spent that whole first year doing hundreds of free Christmas cards and everything under the sun. Yeah. So we did have a good friend that was out in Dallas who was getting married. And so she asked me to do her wedding invitations. And that's where I was like, this is it. This is so fun. I love doing wedding invitations. And that's where everything kind of started beginning of Josh and I working together. We started doing custom wedding invitations, and Josh handled all of the business, the sales side, the pricing, because I'm terrible. I'd be like, oh, I don't know, I'll do it for free. I love it. It's great. Josh helped me turn it into a business, that's part of the reason we work so well together, is he can more handle that business side and realistic expectations and money and all those things. And I get to be creative and come up with products and all of those things. So we work really well together. That's kind of how it all initially began.
I love that though, where you got those complementary skill sets, right? Where if the roles were reversed, like if each of you had to take the other's role, like it wouldn't work, right? And that's the makings of a great partnership, whether you're married to your business partner or not, like having that complementary skill set, which is super cool. So using that graphic design ability, and by the way, your stuff is amazing. I'm a fan. But then combining that with some business savvy and Josh's skill sets. And so Josh, anything you want to add to the origin story there?
Yeah, so we started doing the custom wedding invitations, and I was still working my full-time job with American Airlines. I worked there for 5 years while we were basically building Hadley Designs. I consider it my venture funding, if you will, because it was, we would stay up until 2 a.m. every single day. In fact, we still often do that, way too often. But
and
just
you do it now just because you love what you do and you're interested, or you insomnia, too much caffeine?
Yeah.
We just love what we do.
We love it, and it's fun time together. We can talk more about that. And it's been a huge blessing. It's been fun.
Yeah. So anyways, we had built up the custom wedding invitation business to a point where if we wanted to bring on more clients, like Becca was already like maxed out. There was like no additional room for clients. They'd have to wait like 6 months just to even get on their schedule. So that's when, I had heard about Amazon and people selling on Amazon. And so that's kind of where we dipped our toe in the water, because it was like, hey, we're not able to scale this business any further unless we want to start hiring more graphic designers and go that route. But I decided, hey, no, let's see if we can do something just here on Amazon. So we launched our first product on Amazon, was recipe cards. And ironically enough,
super fun.
Product category isn't amazing in and of itself, but we launched it in Q4 of 2016, and recipe cards do very well in Q4 of any year. And so all of a sudden I saw this huge spike, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. It wasn't the silver bullet that I thought it was. But
because then in Q1 sales went way down, I would assume.
Yeah. It was definitely like a peak. But anyways, it got the idea started of like, hey, maybe there's something to mass producing products instead of doing custom projects one-off for everybody. So again, yeah, that was a few years, and we've still been on Amazon. That we've been launching hundreds of products on Amazon in the stationery and gifts niche, and then from there, Becca also created some printables that we have available on our website to help people celebrate holidays, birthdays, and baby showers and all that stuff. So that's kind of the culminating point of our business is, I was able to quit my job last year with American Airlines.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
We launched our own website on Shopify, and we're just continuing to go all in and new product design, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So one thing I think would be kind of fun, this is a couple show, is let's I love to hear people's superpower, like what makes you unique. And I think we all have them, right? In business to a certain degree, we have some superpower. So, but not everybody likes to brag on themselves, right? Like we're so humble in this industry, some of us. And so, can you explain to the audience the other's superpower? So Becca, can you go first and explain to us what is Josh's superpower, other than being like charming and handsome and all those things?
First, I was gonna say I have a hard time picking just one. I would say Josh has a couple. For one, I think he's one of the most driven people in the world. I think he's able to create more talents just from.
And by the way, just a quick question: you guys to do the Enneagram test? Are you guys Enneagram people?
We have not taken it. I've heard of it. I need to.
I was going to try to guess what Josh is. I'm not, oddly enough, I'm not very good at guessing. I feel like I connect with people well, but I'm not that great at guessing. I'm a 3 for those Enneagram people. I'm a 3 achiever. So I wonder, Josh, I bet you're a 3.
We'll have to follow up.
Yeah.
We'll have to
guess. So let me know. Let me know.
Yeah.
I'll have to know your bet on me too, so then we can take it and find out.
Mm-hmm. I'm thinking you're maybe a 4, individualist. Anywho, okay, all right. I totally interrupted you.
Oh, no, it's fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say Josh is extremely driven. Like with Amazon, he knew nothing about it when we were doing custom brides, custom wedding invitations, and he put in all the time and effort to just completely kill it on Amazon. And that's the case with anything that he wants to learn, putting up our Shopify store, figuring out marketing. He's become super great at figuring out how to hire people. And so he's just really good at learning and then applying what he's learned and being able to then teach and manage other people to do it as well, to grow our team, to manage our team. He's an extremely great leader. I would also say that he's very creative in a business sense. I think people sometimes only associate creativity with artwork, whereas Josh is a very creative entrepreneur, whether that be figuring out the best way to launch a product or to reach a certain audience or to hire someone. He'll come up with very creative ways to do it and to execute it. And so I think he's super driven, a great leader, and very creative in a business sense. So
I love that. I'm so glad you pointed that out, because there is definitely a creativity and ingenuity, being innovative, and that doesn't necessarily mean art, right? It can. Art's fantastic, right? But you can be innovative in a business space. What's that?
Terrible at art.
I will say though, I have been genuinely impressed with how much his perspective of what looks good and what doesn't look good has improved over the years. Like he's pretty good at being like, yeah, this has no potential.
Your taste is being refined right before our eyes, Josh. This is
great. It is.
It's very important.
Okay, awesome. That was fantastic. So now roles are reversed here. So Josh, what is Becca's superpowers? What are her superpowers?
Yeah. Well, Becca, I mean, she is just incredible.
I'm ready to soak it in, lay it on me.
This is good. Yeah. Apparently we need to do this more often. More of
a counseling. I'm an e-commerce show host. I do some YouTube ads. I do some marriage counseling as well. I mean, like not deep counseling, but anyway.
No, yeah. Becca's superpower is definitely like her creativity and her eye for design is unmatched. And I tell her this, but like I would throw her I would put her up against any other graphic designer in the world. Becca will come out ahead. Like she is that good.
I've seen the stuff. Like you're not lying. This is good stuff for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, she is just incredible. And everybody that sees her stuff is like, you did this, you actually created this. And even myself, I'm like, wait, you did this yourself? I'm always every day, impressed. So, I mean, that's her superpower, but it's not that she's just a designer only. She also understands the business side as well, which is very important. So it's not this frivolous, like, let's go produce blankets just because I want to produce blankets and I'm just passionate about blankets. She's smart enough to, trust me and to also have a conversation to say, hey, here's the next products that we're going to launch. And so because of that, again, we're very complementary to each other in our skill sets. And that's what's allowed us to succeed as a business, but also succeed working together as a couple. And it's just fun.
Yeah, that is phenomenal, guys. Really, really cool. So I want to kind of key in on something because I think there's some good business lessons here. Becca, you mentioned it about Josh, that Josh is really good about learning what it takes to succeed in something, and then goes really deep on that. So as an example, what does it take to build a great team, and how do you hire people, and how do you bring people on? And so I think that's such an important skill set. And I'll make a quick sports analogy. I coach basketball, but I also love football, and I like sports in general. But I coached at the varsity level basketball for a while, and I had a great athlete who played for me who was a pretty good basketball player. He was a phenomenal football player though. And I remember just talking to him about, hey, let me try to connect these things here for you, that, how important is footwork in football? Oh, super important. Okay. Footwork is really important in basketball too, but they're very different, because this guy was like trying to make football moves on the basketball court, and that doesn't work. And so, but just understanding, okay, footwork is important, but it's going to look different in these different scenarios, And so I think that's kind of key, understanding what are the elements that make up success in this piece of the business. How do they relate? How do I master them? So can you elaborate on that, Josh? Like what's your approach to kind of learning a new thing? And do you like to go deep on something and do it yourself? Do you like to kind of understand something and then hire someone or outsource it, or elaborate on that a little bit? I know that's a long-winded question.
Yeah. So you going back to personality assessments, if you will. I took the Colby assessment, and that one has me listed as a really high quick start, which basically means I'm really good at like seeing a vision and being able to help it come to fruition. More on the quick start of like I can think very creatively and generate new ideas. Um, and that's one of the key aspects is being able to take an idea, and then for me, I get very bored as soon as I figure it out. So as soon as I figure it out, I'm like, oh, that's boring. Like
Yeah.
if
So you
as soon
figure it out and then get someone else to do it for you, right?
that's exactly
That's
it.
his life story.
So every month I have, and this is kind of my plans for 2021, every month or per quarter, who is it that I'm going to bring onto the team? Because the way that I'm approaching it and the way that I've done it thus far is go dive all in on something I'm learning. So right now it's email marketing, right? So go all in on email marketing.
Good choice. That's gonna be an endeavor that really pays off, no doubt. I'm sure it already has.
Hasn't yet because I haven't really put in too much time and effort.
Okay.
Been half baked thus far, but hopefully it does pay off. But yeah, go all in, learning the best tips and practices, create some SOPs around it, hire somebody that again is even smarter than I am. Then they're able to kind of take the SOPs I've created, expound on them a lot more, and then we just kind of keep layering on. So that's how, our business has been able to succeed, so quickly, I think, is that I'm able to find the right people and plug them into the right spot in the business with very high likelihood of success.
Yeah, that's awesome. Have you guys heard of the book Who, Not How? It was actually mentioned at the War Room event. That's where I first heard about it.
That's because I'm the one who mentioned it.
You were the one who mentioned it. Okay.
Yeah.
That's tremendous. It's such a good book. And I think that is a great way to approach business and life, is thinking about, who, not how do I solve this problem? I think what you described was a slight variation of that. And I think a lot of people will work better doing this the way you do it. I know I do in a lot of cases, where you want to kind of go all in on something and understand it so you can see how it fits in with the business, and so you can know how to better coach and help someone. But then don't do that forever, right? Then find your who, find the who to get the how done, which I think is super smart. Can you guys kind of share what are some lessons you learned from failures, right? And I think we all learn from good stories. And sometimes we only want to talk about successes, but a lot of times, I know for me, like, I learn a lot from failures. Can you guys think of any specific ones, maybe that are not like too revealing or too embarrassing, or but have free reign to talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah. So I'll go first.
Okay.
Because
I'm still thinking.
Becca will have some ideas. So this kind of goes along that same thread of hiring really good people. So that's definitely been, I say now we have a good high likelihood of somebody succeeding, whereas before that definitely was not the case. We hired last year, in fact, we hired 3 new people, full-time, full-fledged employees, and very quickly we realized, this isn't going to work out. And so what we've learned,
all 3, none of the 3 worked out. Okay.
All 3
struck out.
Yeah, it was real bad.
I have found, though, just as a side note, like, to get really good at building a team, I don't know any other way around it. Like, you're going to have at least a few hires that you're like, oh, that was terrible, why did I hire this person? I think you just have to go through that. I know almost no one who's like, oh no, every hire I've had's good. Like, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah. And in addition, there's preparation on the business side as well. It's like, are you ready?
Yeah.
Do you know exactly the role they're going to be playing? So that's why I like to do like a deep dive myself, to be like, okay, these are the KPIs that they should be meeting on a monthly basis. And again, that's kind of what we learned from our first experience, is like, we had this pie in the sky idea of like, ooh, we just want more product designs. Well, okay. Or we want to just blow up the marketing. Well, okay, how?
Job
And
description,
so,
blow up marketing. Here you
yeah,
go. Yeah.
yeah, blow up the marketing.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, one thing that, I think that your audience can take away from this, we found a lot of success working with overseas contractors, that they do a very good job with us. Number one, we've seen that their work ethic is just as good, if not sometimes even better, than any of our US based workforce. And they're hungry to work, and they're just as capable and smart as others. But it allows us to identify people very quickly, bring them into the business without much risk on our side, because that was a big mess when it's like, all right, we now had to register and do all this paperwork in all these 3 states that we'd hired different people from. It was like, then unwinding all of that was a mess in and of itself. So hiring a contractor is like quick wins. Or if it doesn't work out, it's
Yeah. You
easy
just don't
to
renew the contract, right? You don't work again. Yeah, I think there's several lessons there, and this is something that we've really gotten pretty good at as a company is onboarding new teams. So finding and attracting the right team members, onboarding them for success, and I will say, and I'm super proud of this from our team's perspective, is that we've made a lot of really good hires over the last year and a half or so. And when you make a great hire, someone that fits your culture and they fit the role, it's just a beautiful thing. Like there's almost nothing more fulfilling as a leader to see someone you brought on really succeed in what they're doing. And so, but I'll kind of piggyback on a couple things you said there, Josh. One, we've used the contractor turned employee approach a lot. So especially with like specialists, we need a Google ad specialist, an Amazon ad specialist, a YouTube specialist. We got a vetting process, got an interview process. We do a personality test, like all kinds of stuff. But then we'll say, hey, let's work on this project together, right? So here's the project. Here's exactly what we want you to do. Here's what success looks like, and we'll do a couple of those. And then if that goes really well, and the team, likes this person, then we'll make them an offer, And what's so cool is now, and we're a team of about to be 44. We just hired 3 new people starting this month. The team really protects the culture. Like the team is pretty passionate, and they'll interview and say, I don't think this person's going to fit. I don't think they're going to cut it here. And that's an awesome thing. So I love that, going from contractor to employee, or maybe someone just stays a contractor. I think one of the things, and we have not done much with hiring people overseas, but I know a lot of people that do. And I think it's a great approach. I think what a lot of people do when they hire someone overseas is they really spell things out clearly, what they want done. These are the tasks. This is how I need it done. This is what success looks like. But I don't think people necessarily do that when they hire a full-time US employee. Like they don't take as much time to explain what they want. At least that's just been my observation. But I think success, however you go, is kind of the same. Like clearly map it out, make sure you're ready as a company, to really set someone up for success.
And the nice thing about that too is if something happens to them or they get sick or they take a different opportunity, at that point you've laid out the process. So that overwhelming
Yes.
pushing part of it is done. You just need to plug in the right person. So
yeah.
that's been really nice for us. Like you put in that time up front to figure out that process, to figure out their tasks. Then, if something comes up, it's not as stressful to replace them.
Love it. Really good. So Becca, did you think of lessons learned from failure?
For sure. Yeah. I think one of the biggest things that I've learned as our business has continued to develop and change is being able to let something go regardless of how much time you've put into it. For me,
That's a good one.
A number of things, whether it's a photo shoot or a product design. I mean, it can apply across the board, but I know there have been times with designs where whether we put it out to our audience and they don't like it, or the product fails on Amazon, or I just need to take the time to redo something, that I need to be able to let myself and let it go and be like, doesn't matter that you spent all this time doing this XYZ, it's not the right fit. And that can be hard to do. It can be hard to let go of something that you feel like, well, I like it, I put all this time in, or once you take a step back and you're like, oh, it's not really quite what I think is going to work, but making myself be like, all right, then we're going to start over. We're going to scratch it. We're going to let it go. So that can come in a lot of different ways, creative ways, business. So yeah.
Yeah, I totally. First of all, that's a fantastic point, and I think this is very clearly illustrated with like an art project or something like a design that you create. But this totally applies to other things too. It's just not as clear. So you've got refined taste, right? And you're helping Josh refine as well. But you know what looks good from a design standpoint. So you may pour your heart and soul into a new design and think, man, this is good. This is really good. But then it sounds like you maybe had a couple of those where people are like, I don't like it. Or the marketplace just doesn't care for it, right? And
For
that
sure.
that hurts. I think you may have a tendency. Have you ever had this thought where like, oh, well, people are just wrong. Like they're just wrong because this is good. I know this is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, having that ability to say, hey, it's cool. Like this just didn't connect for whatever reason. I'm not going to even though I put my heart and soul into it to try to make it good, it didn't work. So I'm going to move on. I'm not going to be emotionally attached. We do the same thing. It's not as clear, I think, this way. We do the same thing with business ideas, either processes or procedures, or this is the way we've always done things or whatever. Like, no, this was my business idea. This was whatever. So I'm going to stick with it. I love the way I heard this quote about Steve Jobs one time. It's actually from the book Radical Candor, which is a fantastic book. Highly recommend it. But the author was having a conversation with another tech superstar who I'm drawing a blank on who it was now. But they were like, man, Steve Jobs always gets it right. And the author was like, what do you mean Steve Jobs is always right? No one's always right. And the guy said, no. I didn't say Steve Jobs is always right. I said he always gets it right. Where he would sometimes take credit for ideas that weren't his and whatnot. If you ever read his biography, it's interesting. But he was very willing to say, "Oh, you're right. That's a bad idea. We're gonna do this other thing." Even there's a story with the Apple stores where super close to when they were going to launch the first Apple store, Ron Johnson famously came to him and said, "Hey, I just thought about this. We need to redo the whole concept." And I heard that Steve Jobs threw a bit of a temper tantrum, got angry, and then he's like, "You know what? But you're right. We're going to redo the whole thing." And then they were both right. And Apple stores are amazing. So having this quest to get it right, but not necessarily to be right, I think is key in business for sure.
Yeah, and starting out with that fresh perspective when you do need to change and pivot, totally letting it go and pivot and be all in and pivoting for sure.
Yeah. And not let any bitterness or whatever, just, hey, it's okay. This didn't work or it didn't connect with people for whatever reason. No problem. Next, let's move on to the next thing.
And that's one thing that we've tried to embed in our culture at Hadley Designs is we want to fail fast. So I would rather just create a product idea or whatever idea it is or initiative. Let's try to get some wheels under it sooner than later, rather than, let's sit and refine this process and make sure it's perfect. Just to kind of a proof of concept. But then secondly, going back to your point of, I'm not always right. Becca's not always right. And with our team, I've told them, and I'll jump on our phone calls and I'm like, I want you to don't just take what I tell you and say, okay, I'll go do it because Josh said so. He's the CEO.
Right.
No,
right.
I want you to think through and be like, why does it have to be done this way? Or why are we doing it like this? What about this? And every single one of our team members has, just in the last week, has come back to me and said, well, have you considered this? Or why does it have to be this way? What about if we did it XYZ? Anyways, it's been so powerful because, that's kind of where Becca and I, again, going back to us working complementary to one another, is I can bring a product idea to her and it's a decent product idea, but then she goes and takes it to the next level. I'm like, ooh, that's a lot better.
Yeah.
That is where the secret sauce is for us. It's all in the team members. It's all in the collaboration and people being able to speak up.
Yeah, I love that. And one of the things we talk about internally is, hey, let's encourage some disagreement, right? If we're always agreeing about everything, then some of us are unnecessary or somebody's not really speaking their mind, right? And so, one of the things that I did just recently, a newer team member, one of our account managers, called something out in a client Slack channel, and hey, I noticed this, and this just doesn't look right to me. And she asked some really tough questions, some questions that that maybe other people would be afraid to ask because it might make a team member look bad, or someone might, might hurt someone's feelings. And I just went on and on complimenting her for doing that. Like I called it out in the channel. That was awesome. In our next Monday morning meeting with the whole team together, I called it out specifically and said, hey, this is what we need, and this is why we need it. And it turns out there was actually a great answer that she was looking for, but that wasn't the point. The point was that she posed the question, and she brought it up. And I think I mentioned this on a podcast before, but we kind of adopted the line from the TSA, where if you see something, say something, and also you will not be appreciated if you can never say, after the fact, after something failed, oh, I thought that was going to fail. Like, no. If you think something's going to fail, say something then. Don't wait. So anyway,
I like that. See something, say something.
See something, say something. Yeah, it's catchy.
Get some of those TSA posters, put them up around the office.
It's like the only thing I would probably recommend you swipe from the TSA to put into your business. Is one of that motto. But cool. So what about some lessons from successes? So Becca, some lessons you guys have learned recently from successes, because there's also this great principle, and I heard Jim Collins talking about this, where it's actually one of the greatest tragedies in business is succeeding and not knowing why you succeeded, because then you can't duplicate it, and then you can't build upon it, and then it's like, I don't know how this happened, it just did. But so any lessons learned recently from successes?
I think it probably sounds simple, but taking just customer feedback and client feedback, especially when it does come to designs, we've seen how powerful it is to put multiple ideas out there, to have people feel like they're a part of the creation process, that their opinion's been heard, and that can be getting them excited before a product launches, along the steps of design, having them pick, this color set versus this color set.
Yeah. Now, how do you facilitate this? Because that's a super interesting concept. And I hear you guys talk about getting feedback and stuff. Do you do that through a Facebook group, or what do you use to facilitate that?
Yeah, kind of all across the board. We have a Facebook group. I'll do it on social media. We've done it with email surveys, with ManyChat. Is that what you call it? So just kind of all across the board, because you're going to get different people that use different platforms, right? So kind of trying to hit on all the different things to help people be a part of it. But they're the ones that are buying the products. Their opinion is obviously super valuable, but they also people like to be heard. So we get great numbers of feedback, of response percentages, and then their feedback is really helpful. And oftentimes we'll get ideas of, hey, you guys should do this, or what if you made this, or, I really like this. So just really being open to that, I think, has helped us be successful. And again, you have to take their opinions and understand them and appreciate them, and then implement it. So I think that's been a good success for us.
Yeah, it's so good. It is simple, but most businesses don't do it, right? And so I think, one, you got to ask, and you got to take the time and energy to build these communities where you can ask, and then you need to really listen, right? And do what people say. And I think there's something valuable, and you mentioned it. People want to be heard, right? So you ask for someone's opinion, and then they give it. That's satisfaction right there to a certain degree. People love that part. But then if they actually see that thing being created, they're very likely to buy, and they feel like, wow, I'm connected to this business. They're also more likely to share it if they feel like they had some say in it being created. And so, yeah, just a super powerful approach for sure.
Yeah, they had a part in it. And it's not I don't always love changing every single color of something to approach with a different color pattern. Oh, do you like this color versus this color? So it can be tedious and annoying, but like you said, I think people then feel like they have some ownership and they're excited.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Josh, what about you? Lessons from successes. These could be recent successes. These could be successes from the early days, back when you didn't have fancy chairs. It could be whatever.
Back when we didn't have fancy chairs a month ago? Yes.
New.
Hey, in internet years, or internet time, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was. It definitely was. Yeah. So yeah, we'll take it back to pre-corona, which feels like
there you go. That feels like another lifetime. Yeah, for sure.
For real. Yeah. So a lesson that we've learned in a success was we were primarily, if you would have asked us pre-corona, oh, what business are you in? Oh, we're in the, party goods. helping people celebrate birthdays, baby showers,
Yep.
bridal showers, etc. Well, with COVID, that like just blew it
parties.
up. Not in a bad way, right? I said blow it up with marketing in a good way. So it blew it up,
Negatively.
negatively.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really, really scary. Like we were going back to like revenue numbers that were like when we first started our business.
Yeah. When you're locked in your house, you're not buying party favors and special wedding invitation. You're not getting married right now,
So it was a really scary time. But one thing I would say that we did do is we kind of stuck out our neck in a way, and it forced us to go compete in what I previously would have considered a more competitive market in Amazon, right? So there's lots of players. There's tons of reviews on those competitors' products. Definitely, I would have tended to shy away from that before, but it was homeschool related, right? So we knew
we're all homeschoolers
the
now.
trend was like everybody's coming home. So because we were able to say, okay, we see this trend, this is only going to pick up, and we see some people that are not actually serving, customers on those keywords of like homeschool specific keywords. So it's like, yeah, the main category is super competitive, but if we can get our start in some of this niche, homeschool related category, then we can explode. Well, long story short, we went ahead. It was a lot of money to invest into this new product, and it was it still is our best selling product right now.
Wow.
And we launched it without advertising, and it started to sell hundreds a day. And I was
That's
like,
crazy.
Oh, I've never seen that happen.
Yeah, I almost never I don't think I've ever heard of that specifically. And what's great about this is like your core business, all those products are going to come back, right? We're all going to have birthday parties again. And we live in the Midwest. So like there are people in Texas and Missouri, they're like, hey, forget it. I'm having a birthday party anyway. So some of that's probably coming back. But it's going to be back to normal, at some point in time in the future. But now you've got this whole other product this in a very competitive niche that's exploding. And so I love hearing those stories where, hey, pandemic forces us to pivot and think about something new. And I think that's always going to be the case in business, right? Hopefully, it won't be another global pandemic, but there'll be something that will disrupt or create like an opportunity, the perfect chance to pivot into something new. And so, yeah, well, let's do this. So we're up against it. We're about out of time. Any other final tips you would share? Like these are a few of the nuggets we've learned from building this business that you would want to share with other e-commerce entrepreneurs.
I'll go first, and then you have some ideas.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. I'm never the one shy to talk. So she's like, I know you're gonna.
You were when we met in Austin, you were the first one that spoke, which is cool. Like I'm pretty outgoing. I say hi pretty quickly, but I think you were the first one that spoke. So that was cool.
That's why I said the corner of the street doesn't come as a surprise.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like, does that guy shut up? Yeah. Anyways, now I forgot what I was going to say. What was I? What was the question?
So the question was just like any final tidbits, lessons learned that you would share with other e-commerce entrepreneurs.
Yeah. So going back, to where we started, even though I would say like I was a born entrepreneur, if you will, I was the one with the candy stand on the corner of the street at a, young age. Always knew I was going to be in business, but I had no idea where I would actually fall in business. Right. So I would say I'm a risk taker, but not at the same time. So like, I was never willing to be like, all right, Becca, we just graduated school. Like, let's go build our own business and live off of food stamps for the next year or two. Right.
Right. Yeah.
Not that type of risky entrepreneur. I'm more of that safe bet. Right. So that's why I had my job with American Airlines, and it allowed us to very comfortably continue to reinvest into the business. So for I would say the first 3 years, all the money we made just went straight back into the business.
It's amazing.
Straight back into the business. And I mean, we did 6 figures our first year, doing custom wedding invitations. So it wasn't like a small amount of, money. It was like, oh yeah, we made $1,000. That was a good chunk of money, but
a lot of people be wanting to like take a piece. Like I gotta have a piece of that, right?
yeah. And it would have been, fun, but we knew that our vision was always much bigger. Yeah. And so it allowed us, again, a lot of people don't have that amount of savings. We had a lot of savings eventually to go into all these really competitive product categories like I just shared, and be like, all right, we've built our war chest. We're ready to go to battle now. But that took a long time to build up, and always kind of having a bigger vision than kind of what you just see right in front of your face today.
Love it. Know what you're working towards, know what that vision is. And that really helps guide decisions, makes it much easier. Hey, do we spend this or do we save this? Well, we're going to save it because we're going to do this thing next, So awesome. Becca, what about you? Any kind of closing thoughts, final tidbits for the audience?
Yeah, I think again, it sounds simple, but being able to put in the time and the effort, like we work very hard and we have ever since we began. And I strongly believe that I'm not afraid of whoever comes along because I know how much harder I've worked than the other person. But I think a big part of that comes from the fact that we're both very passionate about what we do. So for us, it doesn't always feel like working. Like, sure, sometimes there's stuff we don't want to do that's tedious or whatever. But we work harder. We're always going to work harder than the next person. We're going to put in the hours. I'm going to stay up till 2 a.m. working, and I'm going to keep we're going to keep grinding. We always have. And that's been a huge thing that I feel like has set us apart from a lot of people, is we are willing to sacrifice, to put in the time, to work hard. But again, it's a passion. So making sure that whatever you are doing, you do need to be passionate about it, or that grind is going to feel like a grind. Like for us, it doesn't always feel like a grind, although we don't take as many breaks as sometimes you'd like, but finding that passion and then just going all in and working as hard as you absolutely can, and it really will get you ahead. So
yeah, I want to just piggyback on that real quick. I mean, that is one thing that I would say is both of our superpowers, is the just hard work. We will outwork anybody. I mean, like I said, we're staying up till 2 a.m. and raising a family, and we just have it on all day, but we also enjoy what we're doing. The same token. So it's funny, like during the summer or during the pandemic, right? Everybody was watching Tiger King and everybody's like, oh, have you seen it? It's like, no, like we don't spend any of our time.
We're building something here.
Yeah, I'm a little busy.
Anyways, there's one quote that I have in our office that I had Becca put on a picture of a lion, and she was like, this is turning into just a man cave over here. Anyways, but it says, it's not about who has more talent, it's about who is hungrier. And I love it. And that's awesome. What I love kind of coming to work with each day, that it's like, doesn't matter if the other competitor might be a little bit smarter than I am, I'll work a lot harder.
Yep. That's something you can always control, right? You may not you can't control whether you're smarter than someone else, but you can always control who's going to work the hardest. And I think also a couple of things you talked about, you kind of talked about like tenacity, Becca, and having passion. And those are the things that I think make business fun. Yes, financial success, seeing the growth, dominating a new category, getting those wins, that's super fun too. But if that's all you're going for, some of that fades, right? But if you enjoy the process and enjoy, what you're doing, that combined with financial success, like that's the ticket right there. That's the winning element. So, man, Josh and Becca, you guys nailed it. I know you've already talked about this, and so this is gonna feel like new news to the audience, not to me. You guys should start a podcast. You guys should do like some podcasting here.
We would like to.
That is an idea that we have that we would like to create.
There you go. You heard it here first, unless you guys said it somewhere else, then maybe you didn't hear it here
first.
No,
it's right here on the OMG.
Josh and Becca, the Josh and Becca show, coming to an iTunes app store near you. So awesome. Guys, thank you so much for coming on. This has been fantastic. Appreciate you sharing the time.
Yeah, thank you, Brett. Been a lot of fun.
Awesome. And as always, thank you for tuning in. We couldn't do this without you, obviously. We would love to hear feedback from you. What would you like to hear more of on this show? Also, if you have not done it, we'd love to get that 5-star review on iTunes. And so with that, until next time, thank you for listening.